Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. On this episode, the 468-inch big block that we've been building for almost 3 years is done. I mean done. Like gas and oil and fire it up done. Now, it's not without its share of dramas. When you change this many parts and use this many aftermarket and custom parts, drama kind of comes with the program. So we had to order custom push rods, buy some different guide plates. The ones that came with these heads were actually for 3/8 push rods, which we're not using. So then when the correct comp cams 5/16 push rod guide plates came in, yeah, we had to cut them in half and then weld them back together. So what else? We had to redo the cam timing. We had to get different rocker studs, different rocker arms. Am I forgetting anything? I think that's it. And with that, it's finally together. Make sure you stay tuned to the end because we're going to go over how much this whole thing cost. So, I mean, you guys can decide if it's worth it. You can duplicate this if you want to. Say it was a waste of money. Whatever you want to do. But here we go. Boom. Now, if you're not totally sold on the green, just know that I'm not either. In fact, I actually thought about repainting this whole thing dark Ford blue or the bright Ford blue, which is 9 times out of 10 what I go with. The reason I left it is because it would be a pain in the butt to do a color change at this point. My boys picked this color. Grabber green is what it's called if you want to, you know, duplicate that on your own build. It is what it is. It's not my favorite, but that's the story that goes along with it. So this thing is a 468 cubic inch big block Ford that started life as a stock roached engine takeout from a 97 F250. Yes, this was an EFI motor. You can put carb parts on an EFI motor. Stock block, bored 40 over, Speed Pro cast flat top pistons, hyper eutectic, they're still cast. Pro comp heads, which I ported and worked over. Comp valvetrain, valve springs, rockers, Trend performance push rods. It has a custom hydraulic flat tappet camshaft from Cam Research in Denver, Colorado. It's got a Summit SFI balancer and now L&L mid-length headers. Pertronics ignition. This is all a self-contained unit. All you need is this and a coil, and she runs. Stay tuned to the end of the video. We will go over all the costs for this. Now keep in mind that probably 98% of the parts were all pre-COVID and Bidenflation. That's Bidenflation. That's trademarked, by the way. So yeah. They don't cost what they cost now, but I mean, this thing should be an absolute ripper for what I'm going to use it for. So yeah, stay tuned as we fight our way through a litany of issues. We had a plethora of parts problems with this thing. So okay, I got a couple Muppets in here today. So yeah, after crunching the numbers again, the cam is 4 degrees advanced when I originally ran the numbers way back when on that video. it looked like it was 2 degrees advance, and my timing set is 4-degree retard, straight up 4-degree advance. So I just left it. Now that I have the right length push rods and everything is measuring more accurately, it is exactly 4 degrees advance. So now we get to zip all of this off and reset our timing and check it again. And we'll probably at least will need a timing cover gasket. So let's get to it. I'll bring you back when we're there. Okay, so we have our Trend. Here we go. Trend Performance push rods. So these are all made one piece instead of having a ball that is pressed or welded onto the end. So here is my tool that I made, and here is the replacement Trend push rod. Let's see if I can do this. Anyway, something like that. So pretty neat. Have the size right on there. So they are 5/16 diameter. They are 8.850 length, and they are 80 thousandths thick. They are hollow for oil to flow through them. So while we have this all going, I broke my dial indicator somehow. So I went to the trusty old Harbor Freight and got another one. So we are going to find top dead center again and check if the mark on our balancer is accurate. And we are also going to check cam specs and the degree on the cam again and see what we have there, because our push rods are now 5/16 or so of an inch longer than they were when we did all that the first time. So the numbers should change a little bit. So here we go. Is that yours or is that Roni's?
Roni taught me.
He taught you?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's my turn to be it.
Okay, you're on the video. Is there anything you want to say?
No.
How about tell your dad Ford's rule?
Or Jewel.
Yeah. Roni, do Ford's rule?
Yes.
What about Chevys? Are those pretty good?
No. They suck.
Okay.
No, Roni, you can't be
So I've got the timing cover off. I did rip the front oil pan seal, but I think that I'll be able to salvage these pieces. If you get a timing cover gasket set, it comes with a new gasket, a little rubber, and these little 2 stubs that you're supposed to glue on there. These are still pretty okay, so I think what I'll do is end up trimming this a little bit more, cleaning this all up, gluing the U-shaped seal from the new kit onto the bottom of the timing cover, and then putting this all back together. So I rolled it over so we're dot to dot, which is how I installed it. If I need to retard the cam 4 degrees, I'm gonna take this off, slide the whole thing forward. I wanna roll the cam backwards, and we're gonna go for this mark because that's the one that's ahead, which should mean retard. The one that's behind should mean advance. But before we put this all back together, we're gonna run the numbers again. It's amazing what a difference proper push rod it's amazing what a difference proper push rod length and geometry makes. So here we go. So now we have our little rectangle on the crank gear. We just wiggled the cam gear off, slid them both forward, turned this until that was lined up, and then so the cam dot is now lined up with the rectangle, which you can see is just a little bit behind the keyway, which was at 12 o'clock before when we were dot to dot. We need to put our degree wheel and piece of wire on there once more and mock it all up again, check the numbers, and she should be dialed. We don't have the intake center line, which I've always done before, but the these at 50 numbers, valve timing right here, intake open and exhaust open and close for both. So super easy way to do it, because when you roll it over, you should have exactly 50 thousandths lift at top dead center, right? 0. Super easy. Before, we had 50 thousandths lift at 4 degrees before top dead center, so the cam was 4 degrees advanced in relation to the crank. Now we have retarded the cam 4 degrees, I think. This is exactly why we check. Okay, so we rolled her around again. We're at top dead center. And we are at 49. Yeah, 49 thousandths lift. That's about as close as you can ask for. So, okay, here's my valvetrain soup, is what I'm calling it. These are all brand new parts, and this is a bunch of denatured alcohol in my cleaning tub. And I'll just show you this. See if you can kind of see the glitter and metal shavings in there. Guys, don't ever assume that your brand new parts are clean. There's stuff from machining and stuff that doesn't get cleaned out all the way, so that's your responsibility. So I'm going to take all these out, hose them down with brake clean, blow dry them off, and that's probably going to be it for today. We'll have to get back on her tomorrow. Now I'm just going to switch over to time lapse. I need to zip this guy out, put some thread locker on it, and retorque it, and then clean this up. And we're going to be putting our second new timing cover gasket on. So this is a timing cover repair kit, basically. There's the part number. Comes with the front gasket and the front U seal, because ours was damaged when we took the timing cover off. This is a nice one-piece gasket. It ripped. So we're going to clean this all up real good, and we are going to glue this guy to the timing cover, and then it's going to slip in right under there. And hopefully we won't have any leaks. So here we go. Okay, I'll try to get you a good view on the time lapse, but what we're doing here, no, we're not doing drug related things. Yes, there's tinfoil involved, it's fine. So we have cut all of our guide plates because they do not line up properly, and we want to do this right-ish. So now what we're doing is we are going to line up each individual rocker centered on the valve stem and tighten the bolt down, because the way the guide plate works is it doesn't touch the push rod, but you can see there's maybe a 16th inch of play there. It keeps the rocker centered, because without that, the rocker could just totally come off the side of the valve like that, as you can see. So keeps it centered on the valve stem. So what we're doing is we will line it up, snug the bolt down, line this one up, snug the bolt down, and then you can see, like, just shooting from the hip real quick, that's pretty centered on both of those. Okay. And look at that. That don't line up anymore. So what we'll do now is tighten those down and tack weld this guy back together ×4. So, or ×8 if you think about the rockers, but ×4 on the guide plates. So here we go. Okay, we've now entered the late night portion of the show where we have to be reasonably quiet. Okay, so I've ground each of these down, and I'm not grinding the welds down for them to look pretty. The reason I am is MIG welds are kind of splattery and messy, and I don't want any pieces that might think about flaking off after, 100,000 miles in an engine coming off. So I'm grinding them all out with the grinder and cleaning out really well kind of these little pockets you can get at the edges. That's why people TIG weld when they do this. I don't have a TIG welder, so this is what I got. Tacked them up on the engine, took them out, ground the welds down a little bit, cleaned them really, really well in denatured alcohol. Cleaned up my studs again because we are going to put some Teflon tape on them. Or it's not Teflon tape, it's like PTFE paste. There you go. It's like liquid Teflon tape. Love this stuff. And we're going to put that on all of them because, as you can see, here's an intake rocker. And, I don't know if you can. There we go. As you can see, this is an intake rocker stud. And, woohoo, that's my thumb down there. They go through. Now, the exhaust ones do not. But we'll just go ahead and slather all of them up so that they torque evenly, because the paste will probably lube the threads a little bit. And now that we mocked these up on the engine and tack welded them with proper rocker alignment, this is now where they live. We can't take these and mix them around now, otherwise it's going to be all messed up. So you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4. And way back when I tore down the head, I stamped this side 1 and 4 on this side. The other one is 5 through 8. So those are all numbered there too, so they can go back in their place if they ever have to come off. So now what we need to do is they still need a little bit of fiddling and adjusting for alignment. And then we will torque the rocker studs. And then what we need to do is set preload on the valves. So I will show you how to do one complete pair. And then we'll just time lapse the rest on the GoPro. Okay, that is rockers aligned by the guide plates. Everything is lubed up and ready to be put back together for the last time. So now what we're going to show you is how to set the valves, as you call it. If it was a solid lifter cam, you would be setting lash, which is how much gap you have between the roller tip and the valve stem. You use a feeler gauge in between here to check that gap. This is a hydraulic cam, so we are setting preload. I'll try to show you in these guys. It's hard to see, I can't get the lighting angle right, but the plunger in the lifter is actually pushed down in there about 40 thousandths. And that's what we're going for all around. So, okay, I'm gonna try to dual view this on you here, but I got only one hand. So this guy is set at 0 lash. See, there's no, it'll rock side to side, but there's no up and down movement at the push rod, right? So we're gonna put this wrench at 12 o'clock. Is this the right size? Yeah, you're 5/8. We're gonna put it 12 o'clock. Come on, find her there. It doesn't quite want to go 12 o'clock. Okay, so right now it's 12 o'clock to the engine. I guess we'll go with that. So I'm going to go 3/4 of a turn. Okay, there's 3/4. Now I'm going to take my Allen wrench and snug this guy down. And now's the part where I kind of need 2 hands. I'm holding the nut with my wrench and I'm gonna snug that. Now we can't quite trust that by itself to not come loose, so that the hot tip that I got from Dulcich or somebody is now we're gonna turn both of these together about a 1/16 of a turn right there. So that should not be going anywhere. Now we got to crank it over until that exhaust, that would see, what was that, the intake? Yeah, that one was the intake that we just set. So now when that intake opens halfway and then starts to close, yep, see there, she's going up. Lifter's coming out, rocker's going down. Okay, starting to close. Now we should have plenty of lash here on the exhaust, and we do. Okay, so I realize as I'm editing this video, this is Josh from the future, by the way. I didn't really show you how to find zero lash. I just kind of glossed over it. So we're going to do that real quick, even though our engine is totally done. So I did show you a little bit wiggling the push rod up and down to make the rocker wiggle. So basically zero lash is when there is no more gap between the rocker arm and the valve stem and the rocker arm and the push rod and the lifter down in the intake. So what I'm doing is the polylock nut, you basically, when it's on the base circle of the cam, which I showed you how to do that, you are going to run this nut down by hand just with your fingers. And once it kind of stops, finger tight, just a hair more, is pretty much zero lash. But the way you find it is you rock up and down on the push rod. It won't rock now because this one's already set, but imagine that it was. So you're rocking it up and down while you're tightening this. And once you feel this get tight with your fingers, you should have no more slop up and down. That's what you're looking for. And then you want to twirl the push rod and very slowly and gently tighten this a little bit more with your finger until you feel a drag on the push rod. It's no longer just free spinning. You have a little bit of drag. That's zero lash. Okay, and I'll try to show you this one, and then that's all you get. So we'll go straight up and down again, okay? There's 3/4 of a turn. T-handle. Okay. Snug till my wrist or the tool pops, either way. And then just a little more of a nip it. Nip it up just a little bit. Okay, there's the first pair done. I'm going to stick you on the time lapse and buzz through these other ones. After I finish what I'm doing with the valve covers, torque this intake, and drop the distributor in, is done. That's right. The big block is freaking done. Got our nice silicone on there. Even paid up for the fancy stainless Edelbrock intake bolts. Boy, big block intake manifolds are funky. The way that the bolts all go. It's weird, that's for sure. On stainless bolts going into aluminum, actually pretty much any bolts going into aluminum that are a different metal, use a little bit of anti-sleaze on there. so that they don't weld themselves in there. So we'll get this torqued, throw in our other rubber steel core Moroso valve cover, and then we'll just set the other valve cover on there because we have to refinish the valve covers, and then we're totally done. Forgot the gosh dang coolant hose, the thermostat bypass hose, but luckily I was able to weasel it in there. So easier to put that on before you put the intake on and then kind of slip the intake into it, but oh well. So this is what we're doing. Okay, that pattern to 25 foot-pounds, it says in 2 steps, but it doesn't tell you what the first step is, so we'll go 15. Okay, there's 16. So I'll speed up this last one. I won't bore you to death with the details, but when you have bolts that go vertically, like at a 45-degree angle in relation to the intake mating surface, you have to go around a bunch of times because the intake will kind of wedge itself down in there slowly. So now we'll go to 25. And you need to go around and keep checking because other bolts will loosen up as you torque. Some of them. Other bolts will loosen up as you go through your process. And these are not easy to get to. Or another, not a lot of people watched the last video. It was part 1 of finishing up the 460 build. Some of the issues were in there. You find out the rocker arms that I had shown you earlier totally do not work for a big block Ford. It ended up being a 2-part video. This is the second part. So I don't know what's going on with that. It seems like you guys were excited for it. Some people even said, hey, I didn't get the notification for that. So I don't know. If you're subscribed and you ring the bell, make sure that you double check that you have notifications enabled because it seems like some people weren't getting it. And the last video really did not do well. I'll put a link for it up here or here. Is it here? I'll put a link up here for that video if you want to go back and watch that. It contains some of the old footage too. There's also a playlist for this whole engine build. You know, it might make 500 horsepower. It might not. Honestly don't care. I don't think I'm going to be unhappy with it. I think if it doesn't make 500, it probably makes 480. I got packing peanuts all over me. Where's your brother?
Coming.
Head Muppet sauce. All right. I want you guys to see what you've done. You guys picked this engine color. I want you to see the whole finished combo. So go ahead and pull the stuff off when you're ready. Well,
Cool.
you like it?
Yeah.
Did you hand paint it?
No, I didn't.
Mom did.
Your mom did.
Oh, I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mom hand painted, pinstriped the valve covers for me.
That's good.
You see how they're kind of a satiny finish? The whole, well, the whole big valve cover part, the whole thing is painted.
Oh.
Because they were just a little too rough to polish them back up. Okay, final thoughts though. Do you guys regret the green? Did you do it to mess with me?
No, that's my only thoughts. I was 10 years old.
You were 10. Roni, thoughts? Does it look pretty bitchin'?
And on its own, without these things, it looked not bad.
You know what? Just the block and oil pan all green is kind of garish and ugly. But with all the silver on the top and the black and the other machined and stuff, it kind of works. Especially, I like them black headers. Check those out.
What are headers again?
Okay, give me your final thoughts on this project, Roni. Go.
Pretty good.
Bryce, final thoughts.
I already said I was 10.
No, the whole engine build, not just the green. Wow. Okay, I'm in the office because this is business, Josh. I just forgot my suit. Because we're going to go over the total cost for this big block Ford engine build. So I'll give you basically the long block price first, what it would cost you to build this as a long block, and then I will kind of just sprinkle in some bonus items, which will be other stuff on top of it that you don't need and that you might do different in your build depending on what you're going to do, because you might run a different cam, different intake, that kind of stuff for your whatever your application is. Now stuff like the cam, you would obviously run a different cam if you were going for more of a high RPM application, but the cost should be the same if you go with a hydraulic flat tappet. So that cost should stay the same. Valve springs should be the same, they'll just be different ones, different intake. If you get, it should be roughly the same. So like I said, I'll sprinkle those on top, but let's get to the short block. So we'll go kind of in order. So the very first thing is going to be that engine core. It was a 97 F250 460. It was an EFI engine, and it was the whole long block. So it had no intake. It had the front timing cover, oil pan, oil pump, crank, rods, pistons, stock cam, timing set, all that stuff in it. Everything above the deck of the cylinder block went away. Didn't use any of that. So that core I paid $200 for, and you could probably get one in better shape for around that even. It had blown head gaskets and it had milkshaked oil, so it definitely needed a full rebuild. So then I took my short block to the machine shop, and this receipt is from August of 2019. There's name on there, so there's that. Total on that was $1,208, parts and labor. So far we have $200 for the core plus $1,208. Okay, so the parts were $476, and all the parts were ARP rod bolts, rod bearings, main bearings, cam bearing set, and he installed those. Piston ring set, piston set, which those are H535CP. Those are 40 thousandths over Speed Pro flat top pistons. They were $350. And oil pump, a milling standard oil pump, the M84D. So that makes 476 parts. As far as labor, clean the block, bore and torque plate, a V8, resize 8 rods because of the ARP bolts that got installed. Install cam bearings, grind crank, mount rods on pistons, so R&R rods on pistons. So labor was $732. So anyway, but all of that, $1,208. Okay, next the heads, which I don't have any receipts for because I can't find that one. It might be in my pickup. But the heads themselves, I have no receipt for because I bought them used off of Facebook Marketplace. They had not been run, but they had been bought new by somebody else and bolted on an engine and then taken back off because they decided to go with bigger and better heads. They were complete. I paid $1,000. Then when I took them to the machine shop, everything to get them straightened out was about $700. And that includes all the machine work, valve springs, decking them, all of that stuff. So $1,700 in the heads. So, oh, I forgot to mention also, those heads came with head studs and nuts and washers. So that's why I have no cost there. For the $1,000 they came with a set of head studs. Comp double roller timing set, $57. Rear main seal, $24. Oil pan gasket, $28. That's a good one-piece one. The comp high energy roller rocker arms, $250. Trick flow 7/16 rocker studs, $51. The cam lifters, break-in service, zinc lube, and shipping and all that stuff from Cam Research. So basically the custom hydraulic flat tappet cam package was $329. And I'm not counting valve springs that I did get but wasn't able to use because the valve stems on my valves were 100 thousandths longer than anybody thought they were, so that's not his fault. But the money I set at the machine shop, that included a new set of double comp valve springs, which do fit. Head gaskets, they are Cometic, multi-layer steel. Those are spicy units, $193 for the pair, so $193 plus valve cover gaskets, $21 plus. Okay, I did forget one thing, and that was the Trend push rods, which were about $170 shipped. Oh, the balancer, that harmonic balancer, is that what that is? Summit C4272. Yeah, damper. $170 for that. So I guess let's throw that into the short block total. So 4231 plus 170, 4401. So $4,400 for the complete short block. Okay, now some of the kind of ancillaries. The Edelbrock Performer RPM air gap intake, I paid $390 for. It was on sale, and I got a set of free spark plug wires with it. I think they're normally about $450. They might even be like $500 now because of, you know, the aforementioned economical issues. Intake gaskets, $19. The bolt set, $38. Those Ford Racing valve covers I bought used from a guy on Marketplace for about $100. They were pretty scratched up. I had to repaint them. Again, they'd been mounted up, they didn't work, and he took them off, so they've never really been run, just scratched up from being put on an engine and putting it in the engine bay and stuff like that. I can't find the receipt for that Pertronics distributor, but I think it was about $160, $170. And the coil for that was $47. You have to get the correct one. Anything else you guys wanted to know from the other parts? I think I covered all of it, but just drop me a message or leave me a comment below. The dyno situation is not looking good because of basically lack of interest, and I'm not upset about it or anything, but it just doesn't make sense to do it. It doesn't make sense financially if the channel isn't going to support it, because it's money away from other projects and it's going to make stuff take longer to get done. So not looking like it's going to happen at this point, but in the next episode we should be firing this thing up. I'm going to make a ghetto-ish run stand so that we can run it long enough to kind of start breaking it in and check for leaks before we're going to drop it in the truck, which is soon. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, ring the bell, do all of those things, leave a comment, give a thumbs up. All those things help, and they're free 99. So if you've made it all the way to the end right here, you are a diehard. Thank you guys for watching.